All right, y'all thought that I might be fibbing. This is proof right now. The Letterman podcast. We have one sponsor only, but it is Rupert G and the Hello Deli. Thank you very much for sponsoring our show, Rupert.
It's my honor, Mike.
La, 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 la. Welcome once again to the Letterman podcast. My name is Mike Chisholm, and if it's because if I have any lipstick on my lips, it's because I just kissed that one. It's okay though, I'm allowed to. She's my wife. This is Candace Chisholm, and I am very, very excited to have you on as a guest of the Letterman podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm excited too.
This is kind of fun. This is a very special episode of the Letterman podcast. At least to us, it's very special. I'm not sure how you all are going to feel about it, but it doesn't matter because it's our show and we're going to talk.
Am I Mrs. Letterman podcast?
Well, that would have to make me Mr. Letterman podcast. And I don't think anyone has ever called me that. However, we could maybe I like the idea of you being the first lady of the Letterman podcast. I kind of like that. That's kind of a neat idea.
I'll take it.
Candace Chisholm, ladies and gentlemen, the first lady of the Letterman podcast.
Hello.
I'm so happy to have you here. You know what? And I think when we went to New York, we were in New York for a week, and Candy met many folks within the Letterman mythos, and it's a neat idea to have you on here to go over this trip and to talk about some of the things that we talked about and tease some of the things we can't talk about. But I think that it's neat having you here because there were many folks that we met who I think were curious what kind of a woman would marry Mike Chisholm. And like, is Mike Chisholm for real? Like there was a lot of people who were like, okay, I think you being there with me last week, I think that filled in a lot of gaps for people. Am I correct thinking that? Do you think, or do you think?
I think so. I think there was a few questions about who you are, who I am. But I dispelled them all by telling them that you rented me for the week.
I rented you for the week. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
And the rate was amazing. I'm really happy that you were here. A little bit of Pretty Woman going on. Big mistake, huge. And I'm already feeling that today. This is very, very cool. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful that you're here. I think potentially for the audience, you might dispel some things as well. Because it is kind of strange. Like, we're doing this project off the side of the desk, and what kind of a wife allows a husband to come in and say, you know what, let's take the room off the garage and let's turn it into a podcast studio to do a podcast about David Letterman and all that sort of stuff. You are completely supportive of this project and me doing this project.
Yeah. I am. I am. I will hopefully continue to be that. I just feel that.
No, you're good. I just don't want you touching the mic because that'll brush it, and that's all
gotcha. Good. I think that we talk about this a lot just with the work that I do. And we, purpose, passion. I'm a big purpose and passion girl. The
work that you do being you're building a men's mental wellness app.
That one, yeah.
Go to hechangedit.com. Hechangedit.com.
Can you plug another thing on this?
No, nobody watches this show, so it doesn't matter. But yes, we'll plug as many as you like.
Wow. We're not one of your sponsors. Right on.
We have one sponsor on the Letterman podcast, and we're going to get to that.
Yeah,
we're going to get to that. Rupert is going to be in a big pile of this show today.
Yes. Yeah. No, you know what? You have supported me in all honesty, all sincerity, and all seriousness. You've supported me through every sort of harebrained scheme that I've done in this last 10 years of us being together. And the least I could do is support you in this. But truthfully, I think this is fantastic. And to see the momentum that you've gotten with this, and after meting some of the people,
I'm going to talk about them today.
I can see why you're so passionate about it. And now if I supported you before. Now I will hopefully be able to lift you even higher.
Oh, I appreciate that very much, and be careful what you wish for. Because
Did I only have one wish? Wasted.
no, not wasted, invested. You know, I'm so grateful how this happened. So you and I went to New York last week. It's the first time that you and I have traveled together alone since before the pandemic.
Yeah,
for sure. Any traveling that we have done since then have had members of our family with us.
yeah, we always have a posse.
We always have a posse,
Mhm.
even before, like even back in 2015, you know, the night that happened. And by the way, in that picture, it's not just me. You can see Candy's face right there.
You can see my
She's there.
nose.
She's laughing. And throughout the show, actually, we have the entire show. Thanks to Don Giller, we have that entire show, and you can hear her laughing. Candy has a boisterous. There it is, right there.
You can hear me
Organically.
way before you see
Organically,
me.
there it is. And so and right before Dave came out to do the monologue, he you know, we had our little exchange or whatever, and the way that exchange ended was it was you know, he was talking about my salmon jacket that I was wearing, and making fun of that, and that's what he actually referred to on the show a little bit, making fun of the salmon jacket. And he goes, "Oh, where'd you?" See, that's the thing. Hey, what color is that jacket? It's salmon, I said to him. And he goes, "Oh, well, who's salmon? How do you know about salmon?" My wife picked it out. Is that your wife there? Yes. What's her name? Her name is Candace. Nice to meet you, Janice. Okay, Paul, let's start the show.
That's totally true.
Let's start the show. And he goes back, and then boom, the show's happening. And the first thing he does when he comes out is calls back to us. But Candy was there that night, and that was back in 2015. We had a posse with us. We had people with us. Our friends are actually in the front row there with us. Our son and one of our friends, former business associate, is there as well. And so, but yeah, when we travel, we have a posse. And the last time we were in New York was that night. It was in April 20th, 2015 was the last time we were in New York. And New York is our favorite American city.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
And not just because of Letterman, like, you know, maybe one day you'll be back on the show again, and we can talk a little bit more about the psychosis that I have when it comes to the things that I get into. When I get into something, I get into it big time. When we get married, and I'm usually pretty up. I'm pretty up. I got high energy and all that, but I also have a governor. And I know that when, you know, after 8 or 10 days go by at living at high energy, I just need to kind of recharge. What is one of my very favorite ways to recharge?
You mean like sitting in your underwear playing video games?
Well, or yeah, it usually has to do with, I don't know about underwear, but sitting in a relaxed state.
Yeah, he does.
And immersing myself in something that I love. And I love many, many, many things.
And a lot of it is when you'll sit and just go through old Letterman clips. That's one of the things that you do.
Yes. And I'll watch, you know, she'll come in the room and be like, "Haven't you watched this episode of My Next Guest like 3 times?" Yes, but now I'm looking for this when they talk about this in this episode, and I go through. That's just the way my mind always has worked. You know, Don Giller, who we'll talk about more in this episode, because I went to his house, I went to his apartment, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But he puts these clips together, these anthology clips, and some of them are 6 or 7 parts, an hour and a half a piece, and I'll sit there, you know, craft dinner right out of the pot.
That's true.
Happily. And you know, as I kind of recharge myself back up for the next 10 days or whatever it is, the next run to be up. A lot of Letterman. And you liked David Letterman beforehand, but it was a passing, like, you know, like of all the late night hosts and all that stuff, you appreciated and enjoyed him. And you and I have known each other since I was 19.
Yeah.
And you were a little older than
that. Sorry.
little older than that. And I mean, so we, you know, always loved Letterman, that kind of a thing. Yeah. But when I showed up in your life romantically and then permanently, safe to say you got a crash course in Letterman a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I always did like David Letterman. I mean, of all the late night hosts, I found him always to be clever. You know, I loved his interviewing style and all of that. So that wasn't hard for me to transition. It's not like I had to like transition over from somebody else.
Like you did hockey teams.
That
You converted hockey teams for me.
is true.
Yeah, but you didn't convert from Leno. I don't think I'll say this. I don't think if you were a Leno fan, and I want to be
You
very,
wouldn't
very
have gotten married?
well.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm just saying there would have been a conversation or two. There would have been and not to disparage Mr. Leno. I'm trying not to, but at the same time, the two different, very, very different.
Yeah, I
animals.
mean, I to be honest, like I would watch probably them maybe, I mean, not Leno as much, I guess, but I always did find Letterman way funnier and whatnot. But I didn't like, I wasn't religious, it wasn't church for me.
No, it wasn't the
Mike
comfort
goes to church.
It wasn't the comfort food for you that it was for me, and not unlike the craft dinner that I would eat right out of the pot while watching.
I don't do that either.
But anyway, so we usually travel with a posse many times. This trip here, it was fast. This trip came out like it's so serendipitous. And I talk about the lily pads that lead to
I like that
hosting this show.
Yeah.
And if any one, and there's probably like, I'd like to maybe go through and write down every lily pad in order if I could, as to why the show even exists.
Right.
And there are so many of them. And if you remove just one of them along the way, the show doesn't happen.
No.
And you certainly are a part of that. And you're a testament to it. One of those lily pads was that night for sure. There's no question.
Yeah.
And I would almost even submit, because I do think that this show is going to go some places that we haven't even fathomed. And I think that's going to happen. You're starting to say that as well.
Yeah.
And the trip to New York being a part of that. And I'm very grateful for that. And so this trip was a lily pad trip, but it wasn't even intended to be. The trip was your idea. And how did this trip to New York that we just had, and right now we're in October of 2022, that is when this broadcast was recorded. Why did you suggest we go to New York? How did this happen?
I think, looking back, like, everything, I'm a pretty firm believer of things happening for a reason, obviously, a lot of things anyways. And, I've been watching sort of this progression of the Letterman podcast, and I'm actually fascinated. I'm super fascinated by the guests you've been getting and the amount of people that you've been connecting with. Not that it's a surprise, because he's done that. I have many stories. You can all call me or email me if you want them. But
Candace at hechangeit.com, everybody.
But yeah, so we were talking about, you getting to meet some of these folks in person. And then it was crazy because we have an airline carrier here in Canada called WestJet, flies North America and around the world, but originated here in Canada. And I'm a member, and I got this crazy email saying, hey, you have a voucher for an accompanying fare,
companion flight.
Thank you. And it's about to expire. It expires October 4th. And I thought, oh man, we had a couple had expired because of COVID and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I didn't want another one to expire. So I just sometimes I just play around on the computer and try to look for fares and whatnot. And then it just was, one thing happened after another. And then all of a sudden I came up with this like airfare where, from where we are, which is Western Canada, in this tiny little city in Western Canada, all the way to New York, first class the whole way for both of us, taxes in, was like $500, which is
total price $500.
Yeah, Canadian, which is like
$14.99
for
Americans. It's like $25 US.
Yeah, so it almost was stupid not to do it, and I don't like being stupid, so I was like, well, we should go to New York. And so I kind of just threw it out there.
Yeah, you came to me.
I came to you, and truthfully,
and this is like 2 weeks before we went.
Yeah,
like it was really fast.
And then that was all it took, to be honest. And I should probably know that better than anybody, but like the second that left my mouth, I was like, oh, there it goes. And I could just see this trail of words hitting your earbud drums. And yeah, and that was it. It was over. And I don't make decisions like that fast. So I guess subconsciously I wanted to go pretty bad, because if I said it out loud, that was what happened.
Well, and we love New York very, very much. And I mean, a part of the of this trip, because it was only 6 days, and part of it was not making it all about like there's people that I wish I could have met there. Shecky, Steve Young, I didn't get a chance to see them while we were there, which is unbelievable to me, but it's going to happen again. Like you and I, with stuff that's happening in our life, we believe that New York is just going to be in our life more. And so we're going to see you guys soon. We love you guys. Arthur Kelly. I mean, my gosh, Jerry Mulligan, I wanted to see him as well. You know, next time we go, we're going to make a trip to Jersey. That's going to be fun. So anyway,
airport Jersey.
You got a little bit of the Jersey girl.
And the Jersey girl.
You got a little Jersey girl in you.
Sure. Who doesn't have Jersey girl in them?
It comes out with wine, especially, folks. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, you came to me and you're like, hey, we have a deadline on this. We're gonna miss out on something, and hey, we spent a little bit of points and all that for $500. We're going to New York, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then, you know, a whole bunch of things, confluences of events came to be, and then we went to New York, and it was phenomenal. Phenomenal trip. We love New York so much, and we're going to kind of go through the trip a little bit with everybody here, and it's going to constitute an episode of the Letterman podcast, and I think it's going to be a good one. I think there's some insights there. You know, there are certain people who you know are viewers or listeners of the show who might think this one episode is going to be a boring one because we're not getting into the minutia with a former staff member or someone attached to the show. That's okay.
I won't take it personally.
Good. Me neither. And thank God we don't. But this is, I think it will give insight as to what it is that we want to build and the earnestness of where we're coming from as we build this. First off, thank you for picking I got Candy to pick a jacket, one of the Letterman jackets to wear. And I love that you picked this one. That particular one, we had a package arrive 2 days before we went to New York from a former guest of the show. A box arrived. And you know what? I'll say it out. Shout out to George Schweitzer. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to have you on again. And you are working on something for us, the Letterman podcast, in the background right now that could be really big, and it would be amazing if that happens. But if not, teaser. But if not, anyways, a box arrived from George Schweitzer. I've got video footage of me opening that box. You took the recording of that. What was in that box?
3 of these amazing Letterman jackets, and this one I claimed for my own. I'm just kidding. It goes with my lipstick though.
It does. You came down into the studio and having picked your jacket, and I'm like, your lips match the jacket. Well,
that's how you know I support you. I put on makeup.
You accessorize. Accessorizing is what separates us from the animal, Candace.
Indeed.
Anyway, so yeah, George sent 3 Letterman jackets. So thank you very much for representing the colors today. This is awesome. As we remix the studio, the next few weeks, we're going to start the construction and all that in here. Exciting stuff. And so part of the background is going to be Letterman jackets somehow, some way. Got 7 of the things now, which is crazy. Someone told me after Arthur gave me the first one that we got, and then the second and the third one, the person who hooked us up with those said, be careful, they're addictive. And boy, were they not. Like now I'm like, oh, how many of these things are there? 20? Yeah, we got 7. We're almost halfway there. We could do it. We could get them all. It's like Pokemon, got to catch them all.
Need more closet space. I guess we have to move.
You don't know what Pokemon are. Anyway. Let's kind of chronologically go through the trip a little bit and talk about some of the details of it. We get to New York, and by the way, somebody attached to somebody to the show helped hook us up with a very, very awesome hotel right in Times Square.
Yes.
And it's funny because our New Yorker friends, are you staying close to Times Square? We're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, because New Yorkers many times
avoid
it like the plague. Yeah. They but it's the theater district, and we wanted
would love to know how many native New Yorkers are in Times Square at any given time versus tourists. My guess is like 0.04 4%.
Oh yeah. And it's so funny. The tourists, as you're a tourist walking through Times Square, you're like, this is the greatest thing in the world. And you're looking around at all the people going, oh, look at those New Yorkers. Oh, they're so cool. They're dressed so good. And none of them are New Yorkers. They're all tourists. We walked through Times Square with Rupert. And it's funny because you and May were walking, and Rupert and I were walking together. And he's like, so have you been through here very many times through your trip? I'm like, oh yeah, we've used it to cut through many times because our hotel's just over there. And I said to him, I said, when was the last time you were in Times Square? And he looked at me, he goes, it's been years. And by the way, walking through Times Square with Rupert was really interesting. It was fascinating because like, and I mean, I don't know if he even notices this. I don't think he does. Like he never watched the show. He didn't watch the show very often, which is again, part of the charm of Rupert. And so like we would be walking and we were both engrossed in a conversation and people would be looking and and again, it's all tourists, right? So we would get these looks of people walking by us like, and we got that a number of times, like the double take. And it was so funny walking through Times Square with Rupert. I can't wait for the next time. It was very, very cool doing that. When we were at dinner with him, a lot of people were kind of just looking. Nobody approached the table, which I was very surprised about, but it was interesting. Anyway, so we get there and the first place we go, because we got this amazing hotel right in the theater district. The first place you and I go is Times Square.
Yeah.
Just to feel the energy and all of that stuff. It's just, it's good to get that out of the way too.
Yeah, well, I that's what's funny about Times Square because we went there the first and it was like, oh yeah, that feels so good. And then I think by day 6 we were walking through and we were like, get out of our way, like we're like, damn tourists. By day 6, like we're like, gotta go through Times Square again. I felt like a native New Yorker. It was pretty cool, but yeah, no, I do like Times Square. I think it's pretty rad.
Oh, it's cool. Like it's great. Like our granddaughter,
Rock though.
Well, and we almost saw him.
We
Huge.
missed him by a minute.
Well, it's funny because there was a huge Black Adam display, and like I'm a big Black Adam fan. Like I have a Black Adam statue in my office.
I'm a big Rock fan.
Yeah, she likes the Rock. From years ago, I've got a Black Adam, and I've got lots of kind of side relationships with people who, like, I've got a picture with myself with my arm around the Rock's mom wearing a Black Adam t-shirt years ago, like when it was announced that there's me and McFoley up there. McFoley's a good friend of the Rock. So seeing the Rock was something that it kind of does appeal, not just because he's like the biggest action star in the world, but I got lots of stuff I could talk to him about. But yeah, well, the things you would talk to him about are different than the things.
He's married, so am I.
It's funny how she led with he's married. Anyway, let's move on. So there's a huge Black Adam display and costumes from the movie are there. And there's this big stage where you could go up and be a part of it and win a bunch of prizes, including tickets to the premiere, which The Rock ended up being at.
No.
And so, but then reason we went to Times Square is we went to TKTS. TKTS is where you get the discount tickets for that night's Broadway shows that are not sold out. And we looked at the sign and the sign said the Book of Mormon. And we were like, oh, rad. We haven't seen that. How about night 1 in New York, Broadway, the Book of Mormon? Yes, please. Which, by the way, we were staying right beside.
Yeah.
It was so perfect.
Yeah.
And so we're like, yes, let's do that. Now, while we're in line for TKTS, we were bordering this huge Black Adam display that was there.
Yeah.
And I have one day you guys will see the tattoo, I'm sure. I've got a tattoo on my back of 21 of my very favorite things in the world. I'm a financial advisor, so I don't look like the guy that'd be all tatted up. It's a big tattoo on my back, and it's 21 of my very favorite things in the world. Okay. Letterman's microphone is on there. I think I've talked about this before. The one that Jay has in his house that we've seen.
Yeah.
One of the things that's on there is Shazam / Black Adam's lightning bolt, the lightning bolt on their chest. It's actually part of the collage that's on my back. And so as we're walking by the TKTS line, which is moving slowly, but pretty quick. You guys did good, TKTS staff. Shout out to the TKTS staff. But it was, moving. Watching. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because they're watching. One of the wranglers who was getting people up on stage to do the trivia was there. And I just kind of looked at him and I said, hey, what would you do if somebody shows up who has actually that lightning bolt? Because he had a Black Adam shirt on. He was part of the staff. What would you do if somebody there actually had a tattoo of that on their body? And he's like, oh, let's get you up there. Let's get you up there and do this and do that and all that. And we could have easily had tickets to the premiere. And The Rock was there. But instead,
we went to the theater. But you know what? I mean,
we went and saw the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, we went and saw the Book of Mormon. I don't think I would have changed that, even with Rock being there.
Ding dong, hello. Oh my God, what a funny show.
It was
holy crap. So good.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
So that was night one. And again, what I had to do when Candy suggested we go to New York, I had to really curb because I could have made this entire trip about Letterman stuff, like so easily. And you see how each event could have evolved into another event very, very easily, right? Like the friends that we have there now, more time could have easily been created, but I wanted to make sure that we did stuff as a couple. And so night one, it was just like, well, okay, we're not going to go and see something that Mike loves, Black Adam stuff or whatever.
Okay, I would have gone.
I know you would have gone, but how awesome is it to say that we saw the performance on Broadway for the price that we had? Oh my goodness, go to TKTS if you want to go to see discount shows. So that was night one. And night two or day two, it's funny, we didn't really kick off the Letterman of it all until the very first meeting we had. We did go see Rupert really quick first. And it was great walking into that deli. Walking into the Hello Deli was so good because of the reception that we got, because it wasn't Rupert who first saw us.
No, it was
do you remember?
May.
Do you remember what it was like when we walked into the Hello Deli?
Yeah, it was May and
unannounced. We didn't tell them when we were coming in. He just knew we were coming in this week.
She looked at Mike and she's like, I know you. It was the cutest thing. And Rupert's like, well, that's Mike Chisholm.
And he came out from behind the grill and huge hug, huge embrace, which I'll post
she said you look
group.
Better looking in person.
She did. She gave me a compliment, like right off the cuff. Oh, you're very good looking. You look a lot better in person than you do on the screen, which, which makes me wonder how I come across on the screen, because I don't look very good in person in real life anyway. Stop it. But anyway, so yeah, we walk into the Hello Deli. May, comes over, and then Rupert, oh my goodness, he comes over and a huge hug, and it was so good. Because
incredible people.
We spent a lot of time together on the phone and whatnot, but we haven't really been in the same room since that night, since 2015.
Yeah.
That was the last time. And I put on the salmon jacket. I wore the salmon jacket that I had on.
The pink one?
The pink one. You're the one that taught me it was salmon. I call it.
I actually just watched the Friends episode.
You're the one that picked it. Picked it. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. And going in there. And so we saw Rupert, but then it was like, he's like, okay, when are you having? Rupert was a little guarded as to what was happening over the next couple of days, and I didn't know why. And that's going to come out in this episode as to why he was a little guarded. He's like, oh, we got to take you out for dinner. We got to take you for dinner. I'm like, okay, maybe how about Friday? And he's like, well, I'm not sure what's going on Friday. I'm not sure yet. And he was a little cagey. He was a little kind of, and I'm like, okay. And he knew about the meeting that I was just talking about here that kicked off kind of our trip. He knew that meeting was happening. That was a lunch that we had. And who was that lunch with?
Walter Kim.
And that happened the next day.
Yeah.
And really at the end of the day, so we saw Rupert a little bit, then we went to the Book of Mormon, whatever. The next day at noon is when the Letterman of it all really started for us. And that was a lunch with Walter Kim.
Yeah.
Am I overreaching to say that David Letterman took us out for lunch?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Am I overreaching? We plan on taking him out.
You're asking me if you're overreaching. I mean, I'm the queen of overreaching, but no, I don't think that's an overreach. I think that it was,
except for in husband choice, but anyways.
Stop. No, it was cute. This is business, and so we got.
He said that
we got our lunch paid for, and then I actually thought you might pee your pants a little bit. Like I was like,
well, when he said that, especially.
Oh no, yeah, but it was. You know what? Honestly, quite frankly, I mean, everybody I met was incredible, but I thought Walter. He was a fascinating guy. He was very kind.
Oh, gosh,
extremely intelligent.
Optimistic.
Really, I don't know. Like he just he has like, I feel like I connect to people's souls a lot, like when I talk to them, and he just was a warm individual, like straight out of the gate. And I really enjoyed that meeting. I think I probably overshared at that meeting, but I don't know. It was awesome.
Oh man, you want to talk about
I think I
oversharing?
cried.
Well, it was cool because you talked about he changed it, and you
I
talked about
did.
why you're building this men's mental wellness platform, and you. I can make you cry like that getting you to talk about it because it's coming right from your heart. Candy doesn't like the world her boys are inheriting, and she wants to make it a better place for them and all the other guys out there. That's why. And I mean, that won't take her long. Yeah, it won't take her long. But yeah, so for those who don't know, Walter Kim worked for Pants. He was actually there as an intern for late night. He was there for the transition, and then him and Jay Johnson basically headed up the digital and evolved. They have both evolved in the Worldwide Pants family. And I mean, you look at some of the things that he created, the Day in the Life documentary and some of the other documentaries that he created. He's a documentarian, phenomenal videographer, filmmaker, has a voice. I hope one day, he changed it, blows up, or something happens or whatever, and we can help him finance a film.
Oh,
How good would that feel? I mean,
I'd love to work with him. Yeah.
But yeah, and since. And I'm not going to tell any tales out of school. If I do, they're going to be inadvertent. That lunch was an amazing lunch that stays there. Yeah. The details of it stay there. The public stuff, obviously Walter is running the YouTube channel. Dave refers to him in the segments that he does. Every once in a while, he'll even say something to Walter off camera. We want to have him on this show very, very badly. At that lunch, I asked him questions that I would ask were he on this show. He answered them wonderfully. It was so nice to connect. And he was a guy who I'm very grateful that you were there to help provide context, because he was like,
also to prove you're not crazy.
Well, that's just it. It's the enthusiasm.
I'm the crazy meter.
Yeah, like I know that sometimes my enthusiasm can come across like I might be, but I'm not. I just am enthusiastic, and there is some knowledge and things up there and whatnot.
You are an extremely passionate. Sorry, not to cut you off.
No,
you're very passionate about, like, this is a side note for a second, but this is one of the things that I love so much about you, and it attracted me to you. Also probably something that bugs me too, like in between, it's like that far line, slippery slope. But when you are passionate about something, there is no hiding or denying it. You don't care what anybody thinks about that. You envelop yourself in it. And I love that about you. I think that if we all had that, if we all let ourselves, we all have it. I think if we all let ourselves, and we just owned it, I think we'd be a much happier people, because you are a happy dude.
For the most part.
Everybody always asks if he's this happy. He is this happy at home. Like I'm not kidding. He would, after we got married, he'd wake up and he'd be like, "It's a brand new day," and I was like, "Oh,
every day.
Is this gonna happen every day till we die?"
And I don't drink coffee.
No. No.
It's just, I don't know why. I have no idea.
There's no, I've waited 10 years, still no shoe. No shoes dropped. Curtains way back. Anyways, side note.
I don't know why. But anyway, so yeah, I think that was a good thing. And I'll tell you this is one thing I will say, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. So this at this lunch with Walter, by the way, we had ramen. Like the moment I said to him, I said, pick somewhere that you love, because we plan on taking him out. Like that was the goal.
I manifested that.
Yeah, you did. Really?
I did.
You did.
The ramen.
Oh, the ramen. Yeah. Okay. So we said to him, I said, you pick a place in New York, because again, the Times Square thing, we knew we were going to get that out of our system, but every New Yorker that we wanted to hang with, and we were going to hang with, we wanted to do something local, something they wanted to do. And because,
no Bubba Gum.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I hear they got great seafood in New York. Yeah, there's a Red Lobster in Times Square. Let's go there.
No offense.
No offense to the good people at Red Lobster or Bubba Gump for that matter. It was a fine film. Oddest spinoff ever. No, but we wanted to hang out with the New Yorkers. And so we said to Walter, hey, pick a place you like. And he came back. He goes, do you guys like ramen? And we're like, yeah, we like the
and
ramen.
I had said to Mike, I'm like, I am so, because I'm a huge foodie, and I said I'm so excited for ramen.
Yes.
And he's like, ramen in New York? I don't know, babe.
Because Vancouver ramen is legendary.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I think I bet you they have killer ramen in New York. So I'm pretty sure I manifested the ramen, and it was
right.
ridiculously delicious.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And I mean, the conversation was that much better. Like we remember the ramen, remember how good it was, but that lunch, it went by like that.
Yeah.
90 minutes, all sorts of crazy things talked about. But I'll tell you, and again, a lot of it, I'm not trying to be cryptic. I'm not at all. But I just am trying to be as respectful as humanly possible, because as you all know, we at this production are trying to become the official Letterman podcast. And whether or not it happens, we certainly don't want Dave and company to hit the big red button and say, hey, stop it, cease and desist, because the respect level is so big. I don't know that I would be able to rebel against that. And so the fact that Walter is kind of running pants now, in many ways, and you know, finding out the evolution of how that happened and where it's going and all of that was tremendous. One thing I will say, I looked at him and he was talking about how it happened and all of these things. And one of the things he said is that, well, when the opportunity came, all the other things in his life that were going on, he's like, well, I have to do this. This is my dream job. And that was the part. And I think I even said it to him at lunch. Like, that was my favorite part of the whole thing. Like, I've seen many people in my life who are doing something that I would consider kind of like a dream gig. And they don't look at it that way. They look at, they're maybe very proficient at what it is that they do. And so they just, that's what they do. But it's not their dream gig. And I looked at him and when he said that, like, I could feel the joy coming off of him. And we may never have him on the show here. But that's okay, because just know that the person who is kind of helming the new content that's coming out and the history and putting out the clips of the old content feels that way. I get emotional. I'm literally getting emotional about it right now. I'm so damn happy that he looks at it the way that he does. And I felt, even though I talked his ear off, and I said, I don't know how many times I feel like I'm talking your ear off. He's like, no, I like it. I like the enthusiasm. I feel like he and I share the enthusiasm for Letterman and company. And we're very kindred with that. You were there, you were a witness. Is that reasonable?
Super accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, he, and I agree. I absolutely concur. I don't think that, I think that that's an exact person for that job after meeting him. And I mean,
absolutely.
Again, I'm pretty novice in this arena, but as far as that goes, I feel that he is going to obviously do it extremely well, because he does love it. Yeah. And it shows right down to his soul.
Right down. Yeah. There you go. And I'm so glad that you're here to say this as well, because I don't know how much weight my voice has, because I am constantly enthusiastic about this stuff and all that. And it's good to have you as a balance to have seen that and experienced that as well. Walter is a phenomenal guy. Yeah. Again, not telling tales out of school, because this is what happened. He said, so, okay, what's going on for the rest of the trip, and kind of went over some of the things that we're doing. And his eyes got wide, like having dinner with Steve O'Donnell. You're having dinner with O'Donnell? Yeah, it's going to be great. And it was, and we'll get to that. Well, I'll get to that. Anyway. And so I said, where are you off to right now? And the ramen place that he chose happened to be near Rupert's anyway. And so we're like, okay, well, we're going to Rupert's now. Oh, good. Okay, good. And we're going to the Ed Sullivan Theater to poke around and bother people. And then he goes, oh, I'm doing some filming with him on Friday. And I'm like, oh, this is why Rupert was being a little okay. And I really, can I come? He goes, yeah, like without hesitation, right? Like he was like, without hesitation. Yeah. And he thought I was crazy. He wouldn't have done that. Like, it was like, okay, fantastic. That's great. or maybe it was Thursday. I forget which day it was, but we're doing Filming with Rupert, whatever.
Friday.
Yeah, it was Friday, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And he told me when he was going to be there, and I'm like, oh, can I come? Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thanks, Walter. Hugs, all that kind of stuff. And I put pictures up, but I'll put more up. I'm going to do a thread about this podcast in the Facebook group. If you haven't joined the Facebook group for the Letterman podcast, now's the time.
What are you waiting for?
Hey, I'm going to hire you. Thanks, girl.
Hype man.
So then we go to the Ed Sullivan Theater. And before we get to Rupert, I think we should talk about Bill Palumbo and Tom Balsavich. Tom Balsavich, by the way, I want to have him on the show. A couple of the things that we have, the bridge that's going to be in the studio, in the new version of the studio, which we're looking at right over there, wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Tom. Tom was in the lighting department for Late Show for a long time. He also does stuff with SNL and all that. He's a union guy. And we'll talk about, I want to talk to him about that, because I think a lot of folks don't necessarily know, because they'll see Pat Farmer, but then they'll see like Steve Young on the show. Two completely different worlds as to how their employ works. One works directly for Pants as a writer. The other one works for, CBS, the union, all of that stuff, and has all sorts of different gigs and how that world works. But at the end of the day, the show didn't care about any of that stuff. At least on the surface, didn't care about any of that stuff, and would just feature people from all sorts of different areas of the production. Tom was a lighting guy. He's still a lighting guy for Colbert. No, sorry, he promoted. He's a construction guy. He's a construction guy. And he went from lighting to construction along that process. Worked with guys like Glenn Borders, worked with Harold Larkin, worked with Pat Farmer and Bill Palumbo, and all the rest, Kenny Sheehan, rest in peace, Kenny. And anyway, he and I became acquainted when I released the Letter Manifesto which is the story of that years ago. I've got the thank you and goodnight jacket. It's his, and so grateful for that. I haven't even taken the tags off that one, and I'll wear it very sparingly. So we met Tom, and Tom has a very special story too.
Yeah.
And that touched you.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal, again, I feel like a little bit like a broken record talking about these folks that we met, but he's an amazing man. Yeah. And what touched me about him was, he's very, very humble.
Oh, so humble.
Every time you talked about having him on the podcast, he was like, well, I don't know if I have much to share, but everybody has a story, and when we, we don't want to say too much because it's their personal life, but in talking to him, what touched me about him was his personal story. And I think that those are the things that need to be shared too, because they're what touch other people, right? We're all going through stuff. This is not an easy world necessarily for a lot of people. And I think that Tom he's just a very humble, kind man who obviously has a lot of love for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, and his family. And
yeah,
we don't want to tell too many tales out of school, but when you get a chance to ring the bell, sometimes it's a great thing. He got a chance to ring the bell, and someone in his family got a chance to do that on Monday. And that's very, we're very, very touched by that and grateful. But yeah, like you said, it doesn't have any stories. We're going to play a video here. We're going to insert the video in here of Tom and Bill Palumbo telling some stories. Awesome. Oh gosh, I can't wait to have him on the show. Again, both of them are like, I don't know if we want to be on the show. Yeah, I don't know if we want to be on the show.
But I'll tell you 5 stories right here,
right now that are like mind-blowing. And so we're going to insert that video of Tom and Bill. We're going to insert that right here, and now we're going to break right now. Okay, Mike with the Letterman podcast. I'm here with
Tom, Bill Palumbo,
and these guys are construction guys. Okay, you were lighting for Letterman, construction for Colbert now, right?
Yeah, Colbert.
And Bill, you've been construction the whole time, right?
Yes.
Who's better, you or Pat Farmer?
Pat Farmer.
Pat Farmer, of course.
He might be listening.
Yeah. Well, I seriously doubt that. I don't think anybody listens to this. What's the craziest thing that you ever had to build for The Late Show with David Letterman?
I'd say the ski jump.
The ski jump.
Well, we did 2 ski jumps. One was with the AstroTurf and liquid detergent, on epoxy coated scaffolding with no safety harnesses.
So no snow involved with that.
No snow.
Okay, yeah.
But it was dangerous as hell because we built it with no harnesses, with detergent and water on slippery steel. So that one worked out. The guy went down and that worked fine. Then we did another one with real ice made to look like snow.
Yep.
It was ground up. It was on super heavy scaffolding. We took all night to build that. And the woman that did the ski jump, she went down and she didn't land right. She fell and they had to cancel the show.
Oh my God.
Then we had to dig up all the snow and unload all the heavy stuff, and we're there till the wee hours of the morning and back the next day. It was madness.
Well, we're on 53rd Street right now. There's Rupert's Hello Deli's right there. This is the stage door for the Ed Sullivan Theater.
A lot of memories.
I was just going to say, this is a historic street.
He eats at Rupert's Deli every day.
I
Couple
do,
times a
yeah.
day.
Oh, yeah.
What's your favorite thing to eat at Rupert's?
I have what I call a kitchen sink.
The kitchen sink.
It's grilled cheese with tomato, pickles, hot peppers on rye toast.
The kitchen sink. Well, actually, at the Letterman podcast, we have one sponsor, only one sponsor, and it's the Hello Deli. They're our
the best.
sponsor of our show. So
They're my friends.
an unplanned plug right there. A lot of memories here on 53rd Street. Thank you so much. I'm going to try and convince you to come on the show and talk about some more stories of things that you built and did here.
Stuff we threw off the roof and things like that.
Oh my gosh, that's one of the best segments ever when you guys throw stuff off the roof. So you threw off the right. This is it right here, right?
Yeah, right here. We threw off
Super balls.
one time was super balls. They bounced all
It was like a garbage can full of Super Balls,
all
right?
over the
Something like
place.
that, yeah.
We threw off bottles of champagne,
Yep.
tempera paint, fluorescent light bulbs,
Pumpkins.
pumpkins was
Pumpkin.
another one. We blew up pumpkin. Blew up pumpkin. That was another one. And then I volunteered to clean it up at the end. It's nothing like sweeping up broken glass and champagne mixed with paint and flour. Bags of flour. Oh, what a mess. But it was fun. And it was overtime.
Oh, it's overtime. There you go. Yeah, when you got the union boys involved, there's always overtime. What was the craziest thing you ever had to light?
Craziest.
Or-
But maybe the most memorable was the Paul McCartney on the marquee.
Oh my gosh.
I got to meet Paul that day. Actually, I was underneath the staircase, and he looked at me and said, "Hey, you want to play your birthday song?" I was like, I thought I was in trouble because he was talking to me. I'm like, whatever. He gets up there, he starts rehearsing, he plays "Saves Your Birthday."
Are you
That was pretty
kidding
nice.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Great, yeah.
Hey, I'll throw this one at you. Eminem, Jay-Z on the roof.
Oh, we did that too.
You did
Yeah,
that?
yeah, it was great.
That's one of my favorite musical
Yeah.
moments. Eminem and Jay-Z. If you
That
haven't
was
seen
awesome.
that,
I
you
ran
gotta
to
watch
Jay-Z
that.
that day. I was head down right into his belly. He's like, oh, hold on, and slow down. He's a really nice guy, and he knew I was working for him, so you gotta love the hose,
The memories of the Late Show with David Letterman are endless. We're so grateful to see Walter Kim and all of these people still putting up on the official YouTube channel and Don Giller and all that. Thank you, boys, for taking a little bit of time out of your day to do this, and maybe we'll have you on the show later on. We can tell some more stories. All right, the Letterman Podcast.
And we're back. And so yeah, how bad do I want to have both those guys on the show and everyone around them who have these types of stories? Just fantastic stuff. And that night, the PS to that, we're going to get to Rupert here because this is when we went and started hanging out with Rupert a little bit more. But the PS to that is that night in the rain, we were running back to the Ed Sullivan Theater after Colbert ended. What did we do during the day? We walked. We didn't take the subway once. We walked to all over Manhattan. We had the weather good enough that we could do that. Where did we go?
That's when you know we're not true New Yorkers.
Well,
We walked an average of 15K a day.
Yeah, 15 kilometers. Which
what is that? 700 miles, I think.
No, it's the opposite.
Oh,
Kilometers or more. Probably 12 miles.
bummer.
Anyway, every day. We walked all the way down to, because you had some bucket list stuff you wanted to see.
Yeah.
So after we hung out with Rupert and May and all that sort of stuff, and we told him, by the way, after we hung out with Tom and them, we said, hey, by the way, we found out that there's filming happening here, and we're gonna come, because Walter said it was okay. And he's like, great, that's awesome, that's so good, and everything. And he didn't have to kind of be cagey about it. He didn't have to be cagey anyway, but everybody is so darn respectful and conservative and protective, even after all these years of everything that Dave does. They're all just so protective of Dave.
Yeah, that's what was fascinating to me.
You saw that too, right? Like, and again, you're on the sidelines a little bit, but you saw that with all the people that
Yep.
we hung out with.
I would say that's a testament, obviously, to him.
And they're all
Um,
self-deprecating. They all downplay themselves.
Well, that's probably years of being with him.
It's so funny how
The
that just,
learned trade.
it infiltrated the culture. And I'm talking right now, trading texts back and forth with one of the main producers of Late Night and Late Show. And I just said to him, dude, you are true to form, to brand. You are so self-deprecating. And I can't believe it. Like, he's like one of the greats. And I even said that to him, and he won't accept that. Anyway, that's happening right now. Hopefully that's another cryptic guest as to someone coming on the very, very soon. But they're all self-deprecating. And so anyway, Rupert, protective of Dave, as soon as he found out we knew what was happening and that I was invited down, he was very, very happy about that, because Rupert was doing one of his favorite segment where, Walter would say to him, what are some of your favorite moments? And they were talking about stuff, and it's going to be for the future YouTube clip for Dave's channel. Very, very excited about that. Gave Rupert some ideas, which was cool. Hopefully that goes in there. And I mean, obviously I'm not going to be in it, but if some of the ideas that I gave Rupert are there, that felt really cool to do that. You can imagine for me how big of a thrill that is. By the way, Hello Deli. This is one of the many shirts you can buy. Hello-deli.com.
Great shirt.
I love this shirt. We got one for my dad too.
Yeah, I love this shirt.
In a different color. And there's all sorts of different shapes and sizes of shirts available. And hello-deli.com. Thank you very much, Rupert, for being our sponsor.
That's a great shirt.
Yeah. So anyway, we went down and started walking down to
The Village.
past we walked all the way down to Greenwich Village. And whose apartment did we go see?
That'd be Carrie from Sex and the City.
We went to Carrie's. It's a Brownstone. No, Brownstone, and then an
Walker.
apartment, and that's where so many of the exteriors of that show were shot,
I love Sex and the City.
to the point where there's a little chain in front of the.
Please don't come up these steps.
Please don't come up the steps.
Yeah.
I the poor person who owns that place. Whether I don't imagine they're attached to the show, but what they have to put up with, because when we were there, we took some great pictures of you there. And how many people did we see?
Many.
Making the pilgrimage is what it was like. So many excited women pulling along.
Instagram husbands
who were noticeably less enthused. Then we went to the Friends building. We went and had a nice glass of wine in the Village at a wine and a charcuterie board.
$200 charcuterie board.
Hey, whatever. New York's expensive, but worth it.
It was
the
worth
experience,
it.
The
It was
experience,
adorable.
right?
Yeah, it was a very, very cute little wine spot, and I enjoyed it, and it got us out of the rain for a minute. It was awesome. Yeah.
It started raining by then, and so we're like, okay, well, let's have a New York experience. And then we got the message from Tom saying, hey, if you want to come get your picture taken behind Colbert's desk, get here for this time. And we're like, okay. And we didn't hail a cab. We walked the entire way. So we were down on, it was like 15th.
Yeah.
We walked to 53rd. And we walked up
Bleecker, down on Bleecker Street. We
no Doctor Strange sightings, unfortunately. But
we walked the whole way. Ran a little bit at the end, but
because he was like, the audience is leaving now. We've only got a little window.
Part though is but that's the cool part about why we ended up walking so much and not subwaying, because we saw things that we have never seen before. This is both of our third trip, second together, and that's the nuances of New York. Like, that is what I love. The little nooks and crannies. You're like, wait, what? Where did that come from?
And New York in the autumn is gorgeous.
Oh,
like gorgeous. And it's not too muggy. It's not too,
the weather was phenomenal.
Phenomenal. And even in the rain, like went to a shoe shine shop, which of course sold umbrellas as well, because so many of the shops there just sell umbrellas as well. Bought an umbrella, and we just had it was
Even that experience.
it was a New York experience. It just really was. And so anyways, we rush back up to 53rd Street, and it's by this time it's about 7:00. Ed Sheeran played on the Colbert show that night, and so he actually
supposed to be on the marquee.
He was supposed to be on the marquee. There you go. I don't think we're telling tales out of school. He was going to be on the marquee, but because of the rain, they pulled him back into the studio. He did 3 songs, one of which I think was shown on the show, and the other 2 are ones that they'll show later. And so Tom wasn't sure how much was going to be, how much time it was going to be. But anyways, we got the call, pulled us in. It was really weird going into the Ed Sullivan Theater and seeing that set. I will not lie.
It's quite a beautiful set, though.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And they've changed it around significantly from when Dave was there. It's extremely bright. You can see the entire dome now, whereas that was covered.
I'm glad we saw it. It was it's a beautiful set.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And we've got a couple little videos and stuff that I might insert one here. I'll insert a really quick video here of us walking through. There's the Captain America shield. They've really my boy Tom right there.
That's it. Right there.
Oh,
You got more jackets? Huh? You got more jackets for sale? Sold them all.
and we're back. And
That one wasn't as well done. Sorry.
none of them are well timed, Candy. Flying by the seat of our pants, folks.
Worldwide pants.
Oh my God, we're flying by the seat of our worldwide pants. See, you should host this show. I'm not that clever. Well done. Well done. Quiet you. Anyway, you do fill out that jacket better than I do, that's for sure.
I do.
And take that as however you want to say it. Yeah, she fills it out well.
As sexual harassment. That's
Oh
right.
no, you can't. Double jeopardy. It's my wife. Isn't that a double jeopardy thing?
Maybe.
I don't think that's how double jeopardy works. So phenomenal. That's a day. Like everyone we just talked about there, that's a day. The next day, equally, the next morning, our friends. Now, by the way, this episode drops on one of our friends' birthday, Steve Weiner. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, buddy. We appreciate, oh my God. There might be tears during this part just because of the regard that we have for Steve and Lori. And I'm so grateful for them. Steve Weiner. Now, he didn't work for Letterman that long, but he was there again, not to piss anybody off with this analogy, but at the bottom of the pyramid. And the bottom of the pyramid, it's a pretty damn important part of the structure. The bottom of the pyramid's not built right. I'm sorry, it ain't lasting the 10,000 years, however long the pyramids have been around. It's that's up for debate. What's not for debate is that the foundation of it was built very, very well, and Steve was a big part of that foundation. Discovering Calvert to Forest, okay, the entire run until he passed. The glass breaking, the entire run, to the point where in the final show, the final Late Show, there's a Simpsons gag, and it's of the glass breaking. That's Steve. Like, oh my God. And then, we talked about him. I can't wait to have him back on, because we went out. Where did we go? Okay, so how did it happen? We had brunch at Steve and Lori's. I want you to talk about our journey there, because it was a New York experience. So we left. We wanted to do brunch. We had to be there for 11. Left our hotel at about 10.
Yeah, just before 10. We walked. Because that's what we did.
They live on the Upper East Side.
They live on the Upper East Side. So we ended up getting to walk through Central Park to get to their home.
Cut through Central Park.
And then past the Met, past a bunch of kind of our iconic New York, landmarks. And it was just, I think it was, again, it's just, all of these were about being in the moment.
Yep.
right? Every one of these experiences, and this doesn't just stand for New York. It doesn't just stand for Letterman. It's just about being in the moment and experiencing these things. And I will be the first to admit, I am not always the person that can stay in the moment. I love to travel into the future where I'm like, well, what if these people don't like me? And then I also kind of sit in the past a little bit. And so this is something that I'm working on. And you helped me with that a lot. And so when you said we were going to their house for brunch, I was like, well, that's kind of crazy that we have friends in New York where we're going to their house for brunch. And so we got to walk over there. And I can't explain the hospitality of these incredible people. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had hospitality like that from people that I don't know or know me.
So it's an apartment on the Upper East Side. We then find out it's the apartment that Steve grew up in. Was born in. Yeah. And it's like the charm of that. Again, New York has a magic to people who don't live there. I know we're just vessels for talking about that because there are so many people that believe New York is like this magical place, which it is. But then to go and hang out with two lifelong New Yorkers where he lives in the apartment that go ahead.
Sorry. And there's also people who think that New York is full of people who are mean and rude.
Oh yeah.
And all of that. And that's what I think needs to be dispelled is like New Yorkers. I mean, hey, if you stop them when they're on their way somewhere, they may tell you to take a hike, which fair enough, but like the New Yorkers that we've met they're so damn proud of their city. And they're so interesting. Like
no end.
Yeah. And I think that is a story that needs to be told about New York too. Like, I don't know. I feel like New Yorkers are very unique.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Steve and Lori, I mean, I say Steve and Lori, they complement each other so well.
Yeah.
They're literally like a hand and a glove. Like they just so wonderful. And to talk about Lori's hospitality for a second, I even said it's in some cultures or philosophies considered a spiritual gift. She has the gift of hospitality. Yeah. Like and the way that they would bounce off of each other was just like, I want our marriage to look like that, where they finish each other's sentences, but they're not stepping on each other, and are able to talk about each other's foibles, if I can use, I don't know if that's words right or not. They can talk about each other's eccentricities with love and delight, but truth. And they just fit each other so well. She is like, but the brunch she put on, I look at you when you cook, and I tell people this all the time, you cook with love. You do. She was like a Martha Stewart level of presentation, but oozing with love. Like, and I mean, we're talking, they introduced us to the egg bagel, by the way. I mean, the bagels were great, but they're like, hey, there's an egg bagel. I'm like, an egg bagel? What is that? And this yellow bagel. And I fell in love with the egg bagel. Wouldn't be the last time I had one in our trip. Just this amazing spread that they put out for us. And the as good as the spread was, the conversation was that much better. It was. And here's what I'll say about Steve. So we had a phenomenal time, and I mean, they're lifelong friends, and I can't wait till we get to hang out with them more. I can't wait to have Steve back on the podcast. Here's a guy who, as you know, I'm a big fan of the idea of the transfer of knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. Too. And you are too. And this whole Letterman thing, part of it, our daughter-in-law, I've not famously, but many times said, maybe one day it'll be famously, talk about, how she like this comedy bit. Look at this comedy bit that so-and-so did. And I'm like, that's a Letterman bit here. And to no end, we'll say, okay, how much Letterman stuff has infiltrated our culture and people don't even know it. Yeah. And I'm going to be for whatever reason, I'm a vessel of knowledge that is going to throw that out there as much as I possibly can. Steve is that guy. If I had any say in the matter, this is a guy who'd have a podcast. The idea of a podcast of Steve Weiner, Steve Young, and Steve O'Donnell should have a podcast called Three Comedy Writers Named Steve. Just listening to him, I felt like, and I mean, he's a writer. His dad was a writer, and I mean, he wrote for Robert Klein and his last, big run on the Mickey Mouse Club and the things that they did on that show. he's so talented. And I felt like I was sitting under a wisdom tree and acorns were just falling left and right. And it was so, I mean, you saw how much in my glory I was just listening to this guy.
Yeah.
And not just listening, but conversing and actually being able to hold my own with this world-class mind.
Yeah.
And so as far as I'm concerned, in the Letterman world, unappreciated or unknown, for whatever reason, I mean, goes to work for Robert Klein and these other things that he did in his life. I can't wait to have him on here and to talk more to him. We talk about Steve O'Donnell, who's teaching a class at NYU. And I said, have you ever thought about doing that? And he's like, I don't even know where I'd start. Like, so humble. He's so humble, and I just appreciate Steve Weiner so much. Fantastic time that we had there. So fantastic that we had to get going, and we didn't even get a picture taken with them. But
I know.
But they ended up hanging out with O'Donnell a couple days later, and Lori actually told me that we were the catalyst to them hanging out.
Yeah, except for I was really sad because I missed that O'Donnell dinner.
We're gonna get to that.
Well, yeah.
We're gonna get to that.
I hit a wall.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second. That was the one regret of the trip for you, was that you missed the O'Donnell dinner.
I would have met him, and I would have loved to have gone out for dinner with him, and instead I slept.
Well,
so what happens when you're old, people?
But Steve and Lori, yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Anything else to say about that brunch?
I can't wait for the next one.
Well said. We then took a cab back to the Ed Sullivan Theater because that was the time that the filming was happening. I walked over to the Ed Sullivan Theater. I know we got to go fairly soon, but we'll be, if you've got to let her know that we'll be a few minutes late, then, it's okay to text while I'm doing this.
Is it?
It is. You can go ahead because I, as you all know, can fill time with words. I have that gift. I can do that. So if you need to text somebody while I'm saying this, you can. Candy and I split off at this point, but not before she got to see the delight in my eyes and me turn into a child right in front of her, because we cabbed back from Steve and Lori's to the Hello Deli, and walking up there, knowing that they had closed the deli at this point because Walter was there filming his segment with Rupert. And we missed the starting of the filming, so I wasn't able to be in the deli for it, and I'm really glad, because I would have been freaked the hell out, because we walk up and we look at the window and I go white as a ghost because I'm looking and there's Walter and there's Rupert and he's filming, and Rupert sees me and he's little wave while he's in the middle of the segment, little wave to me, and I'm like, oh, cool. And then I look to the left, there's Walter, and then right behind Walter is Barbara Gaines. And I was just, do you remember it? Do you remember my reaction?
Yeah. Oh.
That's Barbara Gaines. And just dumbfounded, dumbstruck. Did not expect that.
Like, Barbara who?
Remember Barbara on the show all the time? And then in the Letterman clips and jogged, remember?
Then it came.
And then, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. And we're just sitting there watching, and I'm like a kid in a candy store, and I got a picture of it. I'll post that picture as well in the Facebook group. She was there, and big smile on her face, and I would watch through the window, and it was actually really cool because I was watching them film a segment through the window, and as Rupert was talking, you'd see both Walter and Barbara do this. They'd laugh at the stuff Rupert was saying, and it was just, oh, this is so cool. And at this point, you took off.
I did. I went exploring on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big girl though. I was like, I can't believe I'm in New York by myself. I was all proud of myself.
And for a few more hours,
as a country mouse in the city.
So anyway, so you take off, and they finish filming, and as Walter's putting his tripod and things away and all that, Rupert immediately opens the door. Mike, get in here. And he pulls me in. Barbara, this is Mike Chisholm. And he introduces me to Barbara, and I was starstruck.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's so funny because she's just a regular gal, and like all the other Letterman alum, doesn't think that she is doing anything special. And I'm sitting there falling over myself. And normally I like to think that I'm a pretty articulate guy. I wasn't there. And I even texted Walter afterwards and said, I hope Barbara didn't think I was freakish. I used the word freakish. And he's like, no, she thought you were nice. I'm like, okay, I hope you're not just saying that. But I was falling all over myself. I was like, I thank you. I love what you guys are doing right now. And she goes, I don't even know what we're doing now with the YouTube stuff that she's doing with Mary and Dave. And I don't even know what this is and all this stuff. And then somebody said, well, Mike hosts the Letterman podcast. And she looks at me and she goes, really? Do you do that for a living?
Do you not enjoy eating?
I suppose it depends on your definition of living. For the joy of it, yeah, I feel like I'm alive. But no, not right now. Maybe one day. I look at Walter. But anyway, we start talking, and yeah, I don't even know what we're doing. And I've got a great picture of her and I, which she was very gracious to take. Is she going to be on the show? I've already had people asking me that. When Scott Ryan wrote this book, Barbara is featured in it a lot. I referenced that, and she said, well, it took Scott a long time to get me. And I know it does, because Scott and I are buddies and he's been on this show. I don't know if Barbara's ever going to be on.
Yeah, she will.
Oh, I love when you say stuff like that. It gives me goosebumps. But we had, so her son, so those of us who are all Letterman fans remember when Barbara, had her son and all this sort of stuff. And talk, he's 16 years old now, which is crazy how fast time flies. So we talked a little bit about that. Some anecdotes there that maybe when she's on the show we can talk about. But she wished me luck in doing this. And it was really cool to meet her. And we went back and I said, you know what you guys are doing, it's great to see what Dave is doing on my next guest. He's doing kind of the Tom Snyder thing. But what you guys are doing on YouTube, it feels like late night. And we talked about the incident with the gum at the Emmys. And that particular clip, we talked about that, and she relived that and told a little bit of some stories about that to me, which I very grateful for that conversation. And then her and Walter said goodbye, and I spent some time with Rupert. Then I jumped in a cab and I went to Don Giller's from there. I'm not going to talk very much about this, just out of privacy, and you know what, mystique. I love that people think that Don's got this mystique and mysterious sort of thing, and I appreciate it because it's warranted. But going to Don's place meant a lot to me, and seeing how this stuff gets made and whatnot, and the surroundings and the collection. I'm a collector. Big time. Am I a collector?
Yep.
My wife puts up with a lot. I collect a lot of things. And every single one of those things, I look at collectors as like, there's always an alpha, whether it's sports cards, comic books, memorabilia, action figure, whatever it is, that I collect all those things, and more, and people, but yes. But at the end of the day, in all of the collection things that I'm a part of, I'm not an alpha collector in any of those things. I've got some cool things, but I mean, there's always somebody.
You spread yourself out through them.
That might be the case, and maybe if I only collected one thing, maybe I could be like an alpha collector in something. But I look at the Donz, and like seeing the entire collection, it was awe-inspiring. That's the only way that I can say it. And it's cool because, I was trying to be very sensitive to his, COVID's still a thing and all of that. And we arranged it. So when I showed up, he had a mask for me at the grade that made him comfortable. I've kept it and I'm going to keep it. It's going in the studio because that day, and again, I got to be very careful not to become emotional here. That day was really special. And that visit was really special. I have one or two little videos that I'm going to attach in here now with things that he collected from the show. And it doesn't really show anything. It just shows one teeny tiny little part of his apartment. But a couple of the things, the Joe Grossman thing is phenomenally funny. And that he has that is just, and then the Rubik's Cube, we're going to show both those right now.
It's perfect. I don't know.
The Joe Grossman flip book. Oh, and the Rubik's Cube.
So now that I got, it was a birthday gift, an old work friend named Karen. I think, I forget the story. I think one of her friends' mother's sister worked at NBC and got it. And so gave it to Karen, and Karen gave it to me. And this comes from like early '82.
Oh yeah, this is one of the original
And it was a
prop jokes on.
No, it
late
wasn't
night.
a prop joke. It was a promotional thing that NBC was.
Oh right,
was
right.
distributing. And then well, you saw that that Mark Karzan
Yep.
thought that that they used it, and I said, nah, never again, don't do it again. But it was on twice. I mean, the bumper was on twice, and there's one where it's all splattered in little pieces.
And we're back. I'm just going to finish this by saying, Dawn, thank you so much. And people have asked, oh, what did he show you? What videos did he show you? And all that sort of stuff. All I can say is this. I saw the precision of what he can do and saw it up close and personal. And it was crazy. People have always remarked, oh, I told him about this one obscure moment that my letter got read in the mailbag, and 15 minutes later I had it. I saw how he's able to do that, and it's astounding. And then some of the files that were opened or whatever, it's like, is that in the entire Wahoo Gazette run? Yep. Okay. And the way that he had the database is just, it is so impressive. It's just every bit as impressive as anybody who might think what he does is remarkable and impressive. It's every bit and more. And I'm just so grateful. And again, I hope I'm not telling tales out of school with these words, but I had to say it. And I mean, the pictures online and of Dawn of Donz and I and the then and now, I just appreciated it's an honor because he's got so many people with the then and now that he does, where it's an old picture on his monitor and then them sitting in front of it. Current day, he did one for us and he used that picture. So we did a then and now together, and I just, yeah, and more to come. Just really, really, really cool stuff. So I appreciated that. After that, I went back to the hotel to pick you up because it's now time to go to Steve O'Donnell's place. And I mean, I talked about this a little bit on the podcast. He offered to serve canapes. The moment I got there, he had a plate of finger food hors d'oeuvres, and I couldn't believe it. He's like, well, I said I was going to serve you canapes, here you go. And so, but it was just me. And the reason it was just me is Candy and I when we got to New York, we worked at a breakneck speed. We slept very little, and you, safe to say, hit a wall,
broke my neck. I was, you know what? It was, we had taken the red eye out, and we didn't sleep properly. And again, I'm no spring chicken. But I mean, I can keep pace, but just, I don't know. I think it was just, or maybe it was the margarita I had at happy hour. But regardless, I wasn't feeling good. I had come back to the hotel and I just hit this wall, and I'm like, oh no, I don't feel good. Like I felt so bad, and I said, I don't think I can go. And I was worried that if I did go, I would be pushing myself. So, so in some ways, I think that it was, again, I feel like it might've been the okay thing because you guys really could just open up together and spend the time. And you didn't come back for a very long time. I was actually a little worried roaming the streets of New York at like 1 o'clock in the morning by yourself. But, so I was sad not to meet him. So I guess we have to go back just so I can have dinner with Steve. But
absolutely.
I'm glad that you guys got the time together.
Oh my gosh. And I mean, so I get to Steve's place. And we had an hour in there, and it was like old friends meeting. It was so great. He's one of the most entertaining people I've ever met. And he's a legend. He's a legend in comedy, and sitting down with him, and there are so many things we could have talked about that we didn't talk about. And just like when he was on the podcast, and I can't wait to have more interaction with this man. And again, just like the other Steve, sitting at the foot of the wisdom tree, and he was interested. He's interested in me. He was very disappointed you didn't come. I think the same thing. He just he just really wanted to meet you, and but anyway, it was, so we spent about an hour there. He's such a good host, and again, canapes. We had given him a copy of our book, and so we talked a little bit about that. We talked about family, and it was just lots of little anecdotes, and then we went for a walk, and he had picked a restaurant close to him, a Greek restaurant that he had never been to but had heard good things about, and it was amazing. We walked, and he walked me past these apartment buildings, and he's like, okay, Larry David lived there, and so did a bunch of people. I don't even want to give the names necessarily, because I don't want to tell any tales out of school. I want to be very, very careful with this. But anyway, these apartment buildings that were cloned to each other. Okay, so I lived in that one, and Peter and Larry David lived there, and this Letterman staffer and that Letterman staffer and this Letterman staffer who had connected with this Letterman staffer, and all of these things, and telling me these things about these people who all lived right there during the heyday of late night. And that was cool. And walking past it, and all of the stories that were just, he was just talking, but all of his words were a story. Just amazing. Just a charismatic, kind man is Steve O'Donnell. And we got to the restaurant, which was like a happening New York night spot. Sort of, it was just a happening restaurant. It was really, really cool. Lots of good stuff around us. We were downstairs under the street. It had a couple different dining areas, and I mean, we had to talk loud because it was just lots of stuff going on around us. It was very cool. It was just super, super, super cool. Again, would not let me take him out. Thank you, Steve. That was an amazing dinner. Greek food. I had lamb chops. No, they were good. They were really good.
I had lukewarm water and some nuts I had saved from the plane.
You love lamb chops. You love lamb chops. Anyway, you love Greek. When I told her that it was Greek, because, okay, so we finished, and I mean, the only thing I'm going to say is a Norm Macdonald story. We talked a lot about Norm Macdonald, and we talked about Kimmel. We talked about Letterman, of course, all sorts of stuff. This is a Norm Macdonald story that he told me that I loved. I know we got to go soon. Were you just nudging my leg because of that?
No, I was trying to tell you we have to go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know we got to go soon. Well, that's good. I know we do. And we're just going to Rupert and May, and then we're out. But anyway, he told me this story about Norm Macdonald, and it was either Norm's dad or his uncle or something. They're MacDonalds. And he talked about feuds between the MacDonald family and the Campbell family. And Norm lived in a place where his guardians would not have Campbell's soup in the house, because of the MacDonald versus the Campbells, and Campbell soup was just not something that was allowed to be in their house. And that was a very entertaining story that he told. But Steve O'Donnell, I appreciate you so much. Can't wait to have you back on the show. We talked about the show, and he had questions for me. Again, I felt like I was talking his ear off, and I said it, but he said, no, he seemed happy to be there. He really did. And that, to me, we took a nice selfie at the end. I said, this is an honor. This is a night I won't forget ever. And I don't know if he knows that is 100% truth or not, but it is. I will never forget that. We 4+ hours, to the point where I'm like 40 blocks away from our hotel, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna walk it. And I walked back down from where he is. 90th
had something to do.
Well, and I was a little tipsy. And I do admit some of those blocks I skipped as opposed to walking. And I'm not
you're
skipping.
still alive is beyond
No
me.
ruffians came at me. It was just
even they were like confused.
yeah, that's right. I confused the hooligans and got through that. No, there was no. It was a phenomenal walk. Just super, super grateful for that, and I just appreciate Steve. And then I guess we're going to finish off just with Rupert and May, because that's how we finished the trip off. The last thing that we did was Rupert wanted to take us out for dinner, and he picked Carmine's, which I believe, Dawn may have to fact check me on this, but I believe that, like, during the Know Your Cuts of Meat or Know Your Current Events or whatever, segments on the show, I believe that was one of the restaurants that they would give out, vouchers for the audience. Go have a dinner on us at this place. But anyways, Carmine's Family Italian Eatery, that was what they picked for us.
Phenomenal.
And again, they would not let us pay. They took us out for dinner, which is just, but we walked from the deli as they closed up. We walked down through Times Square there. And again, hours, just the conversation was phenomenal. These are friends of ours. Rupert and May have, it's like brothers and sisters. They have a shorthand with each other because they've worked together for so long. I loved how you sat with them and said, and you got the story of how they opened the deli in the first place, and then the life-changing, if the cameras would have been on, it would have been a phenomenal Letterman podcast, but it was so much more than that because they're just friends.
Brilliant, amazing, hardworking people who I loved that conversation because it was just full of little gems about their life, and then they were so interested in our life. And yeah, I'd love to get them over here to Canada. I think.
Oh yeah,
I was trying to woo Rupert with wine.
Our wineries here, where we're from, happens to be a world-class wine region, and
I'd
so
love to have it. Rupert and May, if you watch this ever. Yeah,
we'll get you out to the Okanagan. Just a really, really good. Oh, look at that. Who's that from? You see that?
Farmer.
Pat Farmer just sent me an email. Good times. Anyway, yeah, we had a phenomenal visit with them, and then walked them back to the.
I think it said your co-host is amazing.
Oh, is that what it said? Is that what Pat said? There's no shock there. Everybody out there is like, why isn't she hosting the show? Because she doesn't have what's up here.
No.
You have what's up there, which is beautiful, and I appreciate it. And I'm so grateful that you came on this journey with me. Not just the journey of this episode of the Letterman podcast, but because thank you so much for supporting me, supporting this. Rupert and May, by the way, thank you for sponsoring the show. We just appreciate you guys so much. And
if you are in New York, you have to go to Hello Deli.
Yeah.
You have to go there. You have to go there. You have to eat there. You have to buy merchandise there. You just the best people on the planet, and just amazing. It's just do it. Just do it.
And if you don't live in New York, that's okay too, because you can go to hello-deli.com.
Yeah.
And order what you want. Yeah, there we go. We got this one right here. And then all sorts of Late Show with David Letterman merchandise. You know what? We want this thing to take off. Rupert and May, obviously they've got less years owning this place in front of them as previous. We don't know how long this is going to all last. If this thing takes off, and when this thing takes off and there's some momentum there, we have like the idea of creating some new Late Show with David Letterman shirts. We talked about that. I don't think we're telling tales out of school. I mean, we're trying to figure things out. Some of the patches that are on these jackets or things like that. It would be kind of cool to have versions of other graphics out there. Hello-deli.com has some Late Show with David Letterman merchandise, has some Rupert stuff. But if we wanted to go on a run and do some really cool limited edition stuff and whatnot, that's in the cards potentially. There's all sorts of things in the cards potentially. And if this trip taught me anything, that there are a lot of potentials that could happen. Is that what you witness as well?
Yeah. So what do we need? We need more people watching this show.
Please share, please subscribe. Yep.
Please subscribe. Please like, please comment. Let's just get this to the next level, because this is pretty rad. Actually, it's pretty rad from somebody who just wasn't sure. It's very rad. You know what? And the truth of the matter is that you do not have to be a diehard Letterman fan. Believe it or not, there are people out there who aren't diehard Letterman fans, but you do not have to be a diehard Letterman fan. I know you don't know any of them to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I'm a testament for, is that you can be a fan. Like I was a fan, and sure. I totally loved the show, and I understand, but I do not have all of what you have in your head. And I still enjoyed every single moment with every single person telling every single story, because the stories are real. They're about real people. They're about real events, and they're entertaining as hell. And this little pony and dog show. Didn't he say that at one time?
Yes.
Trying to pull that out of my head. This this podcast, why I love it so much is because you are truly doing it from the heart, and you are doing it because you do not want those stories to die.
No, that's exactly right.
So please share, please subscribe.
Couldn't
Please
have said it
comment,
better myself.
please like.
In fact, there's no way I could have said it better myself. I'm not nearly that articulate. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for supporting me in this. And thank you for
I gotta
part
go.
one.
You
We gotta
You
go.
only paid till 12:30.
See, big mistake. Big mistake.
Huge.
Huge. That's another episode right there. Candace Chisholm, thank you so much. I hope you come back. Will you come back on the show?
Sure, if you don't get canceled for this one. For this one, I just don't want your viewers to be upset that.
I'm a white middle-aged man in his 40s. Getting canceled is something that I deal with the fear of getting canceled is something I deal with every day. Remember when you were 19? Anyway, I was raised on Porky's and David Letterman. What the
Easy
hell can I
now.
say? No, thank you for this. I
welcome.
love you so much.
Thank you
and I
for having
appreciate
me.
you.
Appreciate
And
it.
this has been so much fun. I can't wait till we go back to New York and we can do this again. Maybe we
How
make
about
this a
next week?
tradition. Oh, how about next week? Let's make this a tradition. This has been the Letterman podcast. This is Candace Chisholm. Thank you for being on here. This has been the Letterman podcast with Mike Chisholm. Coincidentally, my name is Mike Chisholm. And thank you for being here with us. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Thank you and good night. Is it awkward?
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Overcoat and underpants.